we have a special interview with members of the freshitcollective.org who, according to their website, work in close partnership with the Water Protector Legal Collective, the Water Protector Anti-Repression Crew, and other allied groups and individuals to meet the many different legal needs of the movement. So we have two members of the collective to tell us about the work they do and the current legal situation around those arrested during the No DAPL movement near Standing Rock. We're going to bring those folks in right now. You got them right there. Whoa, how's it going, y'all?
Hey, I'm Tim.
And I'm Jess.
Yeah, so if you I guess I kind of gave a little summary of what the Fresh It Collective does, but if you can give a little more background on the work y'all have been doing, and then maybe if you can give us sort of what's been going on. So.
Yeah. Well, a lot of what we've been doing so far is just finding these water protectors that were arrested, the nearly 800 water protectors arrested during the cannonball protection, and tracking them down and connecting them with lawyers at no charge to them. We also offer support for their travel expenses, find them places to stay while they're here. And then Jess does a lot of help with the federal cases, like the longer cases where they're required to be here in the county, so they can't leave. And I'll let her tell you about that.
Yeah.
Get into the cases real quick. So that's so basically anybody who's been arrested during the No DAPL movement, if they're curious, they need some help about their case. You have that information. Is there a way they can reach out to you?
Yeah, they can either go to freshitcollective.org, and then there's a contact us button, or call 701 301 7511.
All right, there's number 70130175511. That's a perfect post-it. And Jess, they're saying that you do some work around the federal cases. Are those the bigger cases that right now that people are facing like real prison, or people are facing time, but there's like some folks facing real prison time. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's a couple different levels of the severity of charges that water protectors are facing. Currently, I believe there's 8 open cases at the federal level, including 5 Indigenous men that are on the one indictment, and then there's a related indictment that has another person on it, as well as red bonds charges are federal, considering the interstate complications around that. And there's a few other water protectors that are seeing that their charges might be escalated to a federal level, or it remains unclear. The state and the federal government have done a lot of sketchy things in collusion. So it's like people are always looking ahead to see who might be prosecuted or targeted next. And then we also do support for folks that have really trumped up charges on a state level that are looking at also jail time just for state felony charges. So we try to do that kind of support work. It ranges in terms of what are the needs that are before water protectors and how much harder it is to have employment, as well as housing, as well as have the stability maintained in their lives, considering how severe these charges are. So we do a lot of that support, not only just materially, and also planning in the future of what kind of needs that they might, as well as funding their attorneys and helping with that coordination. We also help with just material support, whether that be transportation or gas money or things for groceries, to make sure that they're in the best healthy position moving forward in order to face these trials that could have collectively hundreds of years worth of prison time at just a federal level alone, or close to that. So that's a lot of what we do.
So there's a lot of information. I hope that folks are following along. One of the things that stands out is from what I've been understanding is that you all do provide at times some logistical support, because I think a lot of people who are involved and maybe people who are watching from a distance, when folks were arrested, they got to go back to North Dakota, so if they went there to support that movement and were swept up in whatever sweep up that happened that day, they have to get back there, and that costs money, it costs time, it costs just a lot of resources. That it's cool to see that there's an organization that's there sort of letting people reach out and answer those questions and sort of provide some sort of, I don't know, respite from just that burden of just having to go back. Like for me personally, I was arrested. I was like getting ready to go back, and it's always just ruins everything. Like going to court just ruins everything. Everything was better than court, you know. So, one of the cases were you? Oh, did you have something, Tim?
Well, I just wanted to say a lot of people feel like they don't need to come back for their court case, or that it would be too difficult to come back. And I want to tell those people that by doing that, by just letting this go, which is an option, you know, I mean, it's just a warrant in North Dakota. But really, that's just allowing Morton County to win. You know, you're giving them your bail money that was paid by, well, probably paid by somebody who cares about the water, somebody who donated that money for the protection of water. And when you don't show up for your court case, that gets turned over to Morton County. Morton County gets to write in their book that, you know, basically they got to win, and they put out a warrant for your arrest, which makes it more difficult for you to come back if you ever had to come back to fight for the water here again. I just wanted people to think about that when they're deciding.
Yeah, and like
we can help.
Yeah, right on. My personal experience too is to share it was my public defender, when I told them that I was planning to go to trial, because I was arrested on October 22nd, and I told them I was going to go to trial, that I wasn't interested in taking a plea because I was, you know, a journalist, and from what they said I was doing, it was, and, you know, didn't make any sense, and they were insistent that I took the plea over and over again, even when I said I didn't want to do it. And then I ended up having, like, our organization got our Unicorn Riot got, you know, helped me get a lawyer, and then that lawyer was like preparing to go to court, and then my case was dropped, you know. So if I had listened to my public attorney that was assigned to me, like, I would have taken a plea months ago from their advice that they just kept saying over and over again. So it's a long road, but at least for me it worked out okay. Jess, were you at the trial of Prolific the Rappers trial? Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, basically somebody was charged with, it was like terrorizing with a drone, like a little bit of background on the charges, and then talk about the case. It's a crazy story. Here we go.
Yeah, so that was the one thing I just want to say to what you said, Lorenzo. Like, I totally agree with your point of having like an attorney that's willing to fight it, but I think it's also a case of like all water protectors should feel empowered to push their attorney, whether a public defender or whether, you know, a pro hoc private attorney, to do the right thing and fight their cases, because I'm just saying, like, you know, that could happen to all water protectors, and no matter what state that they're in, they should feel empowered to do that and like call this number, and we want to help people do that. But anyway, so I went to this trial. It was the longest trial that I had ever been in here in North Dakota, and it was the first felony trial that I've seen go to trial. There's been a few felonies that have come up where there was a scheduling conflict with the court, and they agreed to a resolution where the felony got dropped down to a misdemeanor, and they pled out. And then I believe at least 2 other people had pled out to felonies at a misdemeanor level. So this was the first time that a felony charge was going to go the entire way to trial. And the amount of support that turned out was really incredible, I have to say. The entire courtroom was filled the entire day. There was plenty of people from Bismarck. A lot of people from the Unitarian Universalist Church showed up, as well as people from Digital Smoke Signals and other people that were part of the community that showed up. And like I said, it was a really interesting trial for many different reasons. One reason being that the main witness that was called into trial was Officer Hankey, who was with Morton County Sheriff, who was the one that issued the police report, who had done a deposition, and was the main witness for the prosecution, and was the person that approached Prolific when the drone was flying in question in harm of the helicopter. And excuse me, I forgot to tell you what the charges were. The charges were, there was a felony C for reckless endangerment, failure to obey a police officer, which is a misdemeanor B, and the other misdemeanor B was just another reckless endangerment. So it was 3 charges, 2 misdemeanor Bs, and a felony C for reckless endangerment. So anyways, cops are usually brought in as witnesses for many of these cases, but what was interesting was that, you know, he gave probably like a 45-minute testimony on behalf of the state, and then was then cross-examined for between 2 and 2.5 hours by one of Prolific's attorneys, Doug Parr. And it was confusing for a part of it, I have to admit, where he was going with most of it, but by the end, he had said that, you know, the linearity of his argument was to impeach the witness for providing false information or misrepresenting facts, and basically just calling him out for lying, which was, taken pretty seriously by the prosecution. But there's many different points where he had pointed out with great detail of like which page in the deposition and where in the police report he had said specific.
All right, so we are talking to the Fresha Collective, a couple members. It looks like their feed just froze. Personally, right now we're talking about Prolific's trial, where they're saying they brought in a police officer who was the main witness, the main state witness, and in the cross examination, it was proven that they were lying. So much so that even the prosecutor was like, "Oh yeah, you're lying." And so we brought him back in. This is Jess from the Fresha Collective. If you can continue on.
No, so it was a really it was a very long cross-examination, and I was like kind of dozing off. And then it was very clear at one moment that Doug Parr was calling the cop a liar on the stand. And everyone was taken aback by that, but it was really clearly pointed out in all the different ways in which he had misconstrued his words and his intentions to what he had said under sworn oath, to know better not to assume facts and press them as facts when he did not know that in fact they were facts. Including instructing Prolific to fly the drone higher, actually in potentially the path of the aircraft that the captain or Officer Gallagher was flying. When in fact the law around FAA regulations with drones is that you have to fly beneath 400 feet, and there was a default setting put onto the drone that would not allow him to go within the range of the helicopter. And there was also a really interesting duck story that came up multiple times about how a duck had seriously harmed an officer flying a plane, and that was often brought in. That was brought in by both of the officers as testimony as to the severity of being risk.
And the other trial, have you attended multiple trials, or is it just one of the ones you've seen?
I've seen a lot of trials. I've been going to trials since December.
And what other kind of memories from these trials? Like, what things stand out from your experience going to these trials?
Well, cops are primarily and almost only the people that come to stand witness on the trials. In terms of the state, they have brought in private security firm folks to speak on the stand, but they haven't provided any major testimony. It's all cops for the most part. They refer to Facebook in an enormous amount of times, ways in which that are stunning, truly stunning. This is actually, I feel like, the first time that I've ever seen like photo evidence in terms of like cameras or any kind of other material that's created that was potentially put online that's actually helped water protectors. Not to say that people shouldn't be doing that or be working with their attorneys or doing it in a responsible way, but it's just to say that's like one trend that's been really alarming sitting in court for the past few months. Also, the things that are just permitted and the discourse and the decorum of the court is just very it's really clear that this is like a really small town that never anticipated this to happen, and now they're dealing with an overwhelming caseload that they, it felt like they really were gung-ho on prosecuting everyone. But in the same day, one of their major prosecutors lost a case to a water protector who went pro se and was asking the cop if he knew the definitional difference between a riot and exercising First Amendment rights. And that won. Like, it's really exciting to see that, this is the first felony charge that went the whole way to trial, and we won. And there wasn't any negotiations. He was offered many plea deals and was very deliberate about taking it the whole way to trial.
Do you have any sort of like numbers on like those, or how many people were arrested, how many cases have gone to trial, like how many have been dismissed? Because I know when I was dismissed in a group of people, but other people got recharged. So maybe let's touch a little bit on that, and then yeah. We'll probably head on out.
I don't have all of the numbers. I have the numbers from the October 22nd, where there were 122 people.
Let's wait 1 second here. We can see if we can bring that feedback in. We're just trying to get some solid numbers, at least on the 122 people who were arrested on October 22nd. I think that's what he said. On October 22nd, I was in that group of folks. I had my charges dismissed. My lawyer told me that there was a chance I might be recharged, which I don't know when that chance ends. I don't know when that's over, but that's what I was told. And some people have been recharged. So we're speaking about that right now. Here's Tim again, if you can go ahead.
So then from that number, 24, 47 of them gone past their trial date, and all of the charges there were dropped or the trial didn't happen anyway. And then 24 of those have had more charges added to their original charges. So basically, anybody that hasn't pled guilty so far from 1022 out of the 122 people that were arrested, basically, if you don't take the plea deal, your charges have been dropped. That's just generally speaking. That doesn't apply to everybody, but you know, in 90% of the cases,
And if I was
your charges were dropped.
and those arrested folks, and I was my charges may have been dismissed. Like, if would I be able to contact you all to learn if I got new charges, or you know what can I? That's why maybe run that contact information and what y'all do one more time. We'll kind of call the interview over. If that's cool.
Yeah, it's just yeah, you can call 701-301-7511, which is our hotline. You'll reach somebody between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. every day.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also the Water Protector Anti-Repression Group page, which you can find on Facebook, and people manage. And if you want to send a message there, that's easier. That's an easy way to get in contact with us. If you have any needs, please do not put anything that is sensitive or any information relating to your case. Just say I need help with my information.
And then the last way is freshitcollective.org. And there's a link on there, you know, it's the contact us, where you can tell us what your needs are. Like if you know you're going to need money for gas to get here, or if you just have questions about your legal obligations, you can ask there and we'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm. Also, yes, as a brief plug, if anyone is watching this and receives a subpoena or is called by the FBI or anything like that, please call us immediately. We have attorneys, so if you'd like to talk to you, please never talk to cops. Say that you'd like to speak to an attorney under all circumstances.
All right, and hold the paper. What was the number one more time? Then we'll say goodbye. It's 701. You got that little post-it note, the magic post-it note?
Read it on your own.
So that's the hotline, 701-301-7511. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Tim and Jess from the Fresh It Collective, freshitcollective.org. See you later.